I used to think that if your parents didn't hate you, they must love you. Turns out, there's a big space in between, a kind of emotional no man's land where you're not hated, but you're not exactly wanted either. That's where I lived for most of my teenage years. When I was 15, I came home from school and found the front door locked. There was no note inside, no dinner, no one waiting, just a single piece of paper taped to the door. Matt, we decided to leave for a spontaneous week at the lake house. Stay safe. Mom. No call. No warning. Just gone. 2 days later, the house caught fire. Stepfather told the police I did it. Said I was unstable, violent, that I'd acted out because I wasn't invited. And my mother, she didn't deny a word. That's how it started, the unraveling. But the truth was darker than any of them knew. And the real fire wasn't the one that burned our house. This is what happened when I stopped being their son and started being their scapegoat. My parents divorced when I was 6. It wasn't messy, at least not on the surface. No shouting, no slamming doors, just 2 adults who didn't work anymore. I stayed with Mom during the week. She lived closer to my school and with Dad on weekends. We had our routines. Things started to change when I was around 10. Mom got more distant, not in a dramatic way, but in those little details that add up. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped remembering which friend was which. My drawings stopped making it to the fridge. I guess I became background noise. At 12, she met Richard. He was the kind of guy who made adults swoon, charming, clean-cut, always had some story that made him sound successful. He worked in hotels or real estate or something like that. It changed depending on who he was talking to. He'd bring over wine, compliment Mom's cooking, and act like I was this adorable add-on to his new life. At first, I tried. I really did. He brought me a mountain bike once, some high-end thing with gears I didn't even know how to use. Told me we should go riding together. We never did. He'd call me big guy and ruffle my hair like I was 5. I was 13. He had 2 kids of his own, Josh and Aaron, younger than me, 10 and 8 at the time. They were quiet, like Stepford kids. Always said, yes, sir, and no, ma'am. Mom loved them. I mean, she didn't say it, but you could tell. The way her whole face softened when Josh asked for help with homework. The way she praised Aaron for being so polite. With me, it felt like I was always doing something wrong. Too loud. Too opinionated. Too me. At 14, I started spending more time at Dad's. He was warm, and he didn't make me feel like I had to audition for affection. We'd watch Bulls games in silence, and it was more comfort than I ever got from Mom and Richard. Then Richard proposed. Mom said yes. I wasn't surprised. I just remember thinking, so this is permanent now. After the wedding, everything that was mine started getting slowly replaced. My room got moved to the smaller one so Josh and Aaron could share the bigger one. My posters disappeared. My stuff ended up in boxes in the garage. Nobody asked me if I was okay with it. I asked Mom once, do you still want me here? She laughed like it was a stupid question. Said, of course, don't be dramatic. But her eyes didn't match her voice. I became more of a guest in my own house. One they tolerated, not one they loved. And I know how that sounds. I know some people have it worse. But when your own mother looks past you like you're just another noise in the room, that kind of loneliness is sharp. It was around then that Richard started talking about simplifying the family finances, about putting things under one name, about how he'd take care of everything. And that's when the lake house came up. It was a Thursday. That much I remember clearly. The rest of that day, though, it's a bit of a blur, not because it wasn't memorable, but because it was so jarring. My brain still struggles to file it correctly. You know those moments that feel like they belong to someone else's life? That's what this was. I came home from school expecting the usual. Maybe leftover pasta in the fridge, maybe Richard in the kitchen on his Bluetooth headset pretending to be busier than he actually was. Maybe Mom flipping through her emails with that look she always wore, the one that said, I'm listening, but I'm also stressed, and please don't make me feel guilty for that. Instead, the front door was locked. That was the first red flag. It was never locked at that time. We lived in a pretty quiet neighborhood where people still left their garage doors open sometimes without even thinking about it. I figured, okay, maybe they stepped out. Groceries. Errand. Dentist. Then I saw the paper. One of those cheap printer paper notes, taped right in the center of the door like a bad flyer. My name was scrawled in my mom's handwriting. Matt, we decided to leave for a spontaneous week at the lake house. Stay safe. Mom. I read it twice. The first time, I thought I'd missed something. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe there was a second note with more explanation. I looked down, checked the mailbox, looked around the porch like there might be a hidden camera or something. Like maybe I was on a reality show and this was all just some elaborate joke. But no, that was it. No text. No voicemail. No, hey honey, just a heads up. They just left. I unlocked my phone and tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. 12 times. I kept track, like a lunatic. Just kept hitting redial. Like if I did it enough, the universe would be forced to reverse whatever cruel glitch had just happened. Nothing. I stood there for a long time, probably 10, 15 minutes, not moving. Just existing. Processing. Then I opened the garage code to double-check. The car was gone. Both cars, actually. The one Richard drives and the SUV Mom still calls her baby, even though he handles the payments now. That's when the message became real. They didn't forget me. I wasn't an afterthought. I was excluded. I didn't go inside the house. I don't know why, maybe because it didn't feel like mine anymore. Maybe because I didn't want to walk into the silence of a house that had made room for everyone else but not for me. So I turned around, walked down the block, got on the bus, and went to the train station. I called Dad. He didn't pick up the first time, but he called back 2 minutes later. You okay? I didn't know what to say. I must have mumbled something like, can I come stay for a few days? Because the next thing I remember is being on the train, then in his building's elevator, and then in his apartment. That loft with the brick walls and the weird smell that somehow always reminded me of the 90s. He opened the door, looked at me, and just said, you're always welcome here. No questions. No awkward hugs. Just that. That night, he ordered pizza. The place we used to go to when I was little. He still remembered I liked plain cheese with garlic crust. We sat on the couch, the Bulls game on mute in the background, and for a while, I just stared at the wall, holding a slice I hadn't even bitten into. You want to tell me what's going on? He asked eventually. I shook my head. He didn't push. But after a while, something broke loose. Like once I started talking, I couldn't stop. I told him about the note. About the locked door. About how no one told me anything. About calling and getting nothing. About realizing they were all up at the lakehouse, probably eating steaks and playing board games and doing esmores while I stood on the porch like a stranger. But then the words changed. I didn't just tell him about what happened. I told him what I felt. How I didn't feel like I had a home anymore. How I always seemed like a visitor, a guest who overstayed his welcome. How Richard acted like I was an inconvenience. How my mom used to light up when I walked into the room, and now barely looked up from her screen. How the stepbrothers never really talked to me. How the house stopped feeling like ours the day Richard moved in. And how Mom just let it happen. She doesn't even ask about my day anymore, I said, staring down at the crust in my hand. Like, ever. She just assumes I'm fine. Unless Richard has something to say about me, then suddenly I'm a problem. Dad didn't say much. He just listened. I kept going. She decorated the whole living room with new stuff after he moved in. My school photos? They're in a box now. There's one of Josh on the piano. That's not even his piano. I laughed, but it came out weird. Bitter. And now they just leave me behind. Like it's normal. Like I'm supposed to be fine with it. Like I'm not part of the family anymore. Dad nodded slowly. That's not okay. No, it's not, I said, my voice sharper than I meant it to be. And I'm not gonna pretend it is. There was a pause. Then Dad leaned back and sighed. You want to stay here for a while? Like, more than a couple nights? I nodded. Yeah, I think I do. All right, he said. We'll figure it out. I wish that had been the end of it. I wish this story stopped there, with me finally saying out loud what I'd been feeling for months, and my dad quietly stepping up. But life doesn't wrap things up in neat little episodes. 2 days. That's how long it took for everything to twist into something unrecognizable. When I left Mom's house that Thursday, after finding the note taped to the door, after calling her 12 times and getting nothing, I didn't even go inside. I never turned the doorknob. Never crossed the threshold. I stood there for a minute, read the note again, let the weight of it sink in, and then I left. I went to my dad's place like I'd done 100 times before. Only this time, it wasn't just a weekend visit. It should have felt like a reset. A safe place to exhale. But then Sunday came. I was in the kitchen, digging through the cereal cabinet, when Dad's phone rang. He stepped into the hallway to answer it, nothing unusual until I heard his voice drop. Quiet, tense. When he came back into the room, he looked pale. I was kind of distant, like he'd just come back from a memory he didn't want to talk about. Matt, he said, there's something we need to talk about. My stomach clenched. There was a fire, he continued. At your mom's house. Late last night. I just stared at him. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. My throat was dry. No one was hurt, Dad added. But the damage was, it's not small. I nodded slowly. That house, the one with the slightly leaning stair railing, the squeaky kitchen tiles, the living room where my first drawings used to hang, was burning. Then, the knock came. 2 cops. Not rude. Not aggressive. Just professional. Calm in that weird way that makes you feel like you're already guilty. They asked where I'd been Friday night. I told them I'd been here. With Dad. Can anyone confirm that? My dad. We were here all night, I said. One of them made a note. Did you go back to your mother's house at any point after Thursday afternoon? No. I never even went inside on Thursday, I said. I saw the note on the door and left. That was it. They nodded, but I could feel it. The air had shifted. And then one of them said, we received a statement suggesting there was tension between you and your stepfather. That you were upset about not being included in a family trip. That you might have made threats. What? I blinked. No. That's not. Who told you that? They didn't answer, of course. Just thanked me and left, promising they'd be in touch if they needed anything else. As soon as the door closed, Dad let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in his lungs all morning. Let me guess, I said. Richard. He didn't respond. He didn't need to. Later that night, Dad called a friend of his, someone he used to work with in city planning, who now had connections in the fire department. Just to get clarity. Turns out, yeah, it was Richard. He told the police that I'd been angry, that I felt excluded, that I'd stormed off, and that I had a history of emotional outbursts. He painted a picture of a bitter stepson, a kid who might torch a house in a fit of revenge. He didn't mention that I never even went inside. He didn't mention the 12 missed calls I made to my mom. And Mom? She didn't contradict any of it. Didn't say, Matt wouldn't do that. Didn't clarify the truth. She just let the story stand. That night, I lay awake on the couch in Dad's apartment. The Bulls game was on in the background again, volume low. Same as before. Only this time, the silence felt different. It wasn't peace. It was shame. I felt like the walls were closing in, not because of guilt, but because I could already see what was coming. The whisper campaign. The suspicious glances. The way people would start to look at me and think, maybe. And that's what broke me. Not the fire. Not the cops. Not even the accusation. It was her silence. Because in that moment, it became crystal clear. Richard wasn't the only one trying to erase me. Mom just decided not to stop him. The call came just after midnight. I was still awake, lying on Dad's couch in the dark, headphones in, trying to drown out the static in my brain with some mindless video. I wasn't really watching it. I hadn't actually processed anything since the cops left earlier that day. So when my phone buzzed and I saw Mom on the screen, my stomach flipped. For a second, one stupid second, I thought maybe this was it. The moment she'd say she was sorry, that she hadn't meant to leave me behind, that she was scared and overwhelmed and made a mistake, that she knew I didn't do it. But that second passed. And then I answered, "What the hell is wrong with you?" were her first words. I froze. I swear to God, Matt, do you have any idea what we're going through right now? The house is ruined. Your stepbrothers are traumatized. I haven't slept in 2 days. And then I hear from the police that you told them you weren't even home. I wasn't, I said, my voice flat. Exactly. She snapped. You just left. Without even checking inside. Without telling anyone. You just ran off like a coward. I blinked. There was a note on the door, Mom. From you. Silence. You taped a note to the door telling me you left for the lakehouse. You didn't text. You didn't call. You didn't ask if I was coming. You could have stayed home, she said. Her voice was shaking now, rising. You could have kept an eye on the place. Maybe if you hadn't been so dramatic, none of this would have happened. Maybe, you could have done something before it got this bad. That hit harder than I expected. You're blaming me for the fire? I asked, my voice cracking halfway through the sentence. I'm saying you left, she yelled. And that house was your responsibility too. You lived there. You can't just disappear and expect everyone else to clean up the mess. I didn't even go inside, I said, numb now. I didn't touch anything. You locked me out. She didn't answer right away. But she didn't apologize either. Instead, she said the line that finally snapped whatever thread of hope I was still clinging to. You've always been like this, Matt. Always acting like the victim. Always making everything harder than it has to be. You're not a child anymore. Grow up. When the call ended, Or maybe I hung up. I honestly don't remember. I just sat there, holding my phone like it might start burning in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just went still. I think that's what betrayal feels like when it finally completes the cycle. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just a kind of cold. A quiet that seeps in and takes over your chest. Dad had been in his room. I didn't know he was awake until he stepped out a few minutes later, in sweatpants and a t-shirt, rubbing the back of his neck like he didn't know how to start this conversation. Was that her? He asked. I nodded. She blaming you? I nodded again. He sighed and sat down next to me. Not too close, just enough that I could feel the warmth from his side of the couch. I should have seen this coming, he said, more to himself than to me. She said I left the house unprotected, I said quietly. That if I'd stayed, it wouldn't have happened. That's bullshit. I looked at him. You're 15, he said. You're not responsible for that house. You're not her husband. You're not Richard. You're a kid. And they left you behind. That was the first time anyone said it out loud like that. They didn't just leave you, Dad added. They abandoned you. I don't care how she tries to spin it. I didn't say anything. You're not crazy, he continued. You're not the problem. And I swear to you, if they try to make this more than it is, if they come at you again, I'll handle it. I swallowed hard. He didn't hug me. He didn't do anything dramatic. He just stayed there, sitting with me in the dark, watching the screen as some autoplay video we weren't paying attention to flickered across the room. It was the closest I'd felt to safety in days. And in that moment, I realized something important. Mom didn't see me as her son anymore. I swear to God, Matt, I'm not going to let anyone talk to you like that again. Not even her. He sat down, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he was holding something back. She left you. She locked you out of your own house. Didn't call, didn't text, and then when something goes wrong, something you had nothing to do with, she blames you? She said I should have been there. To watch the house, I muttered. You're 15, he snapped, then caught himself and lowered his voice. 15. You are not responsible for her house. For her husband. For her kids. He stood up again, fist clenched now. She backed him up, he asked, already knowing the answer. She didn't say a word, I said. She let him tell the police I was angry. That I had a history. That I might have done it. Dad's face hardened. But the cops, they proved it was an electrical fire. Right? I nodded. Something shorted behind the dryer. They said it was probably a bad outlet or the wiring. No signs of forced entry. Nothing suspicious. And even after that, he said slowly, she still had the nerve to blame you. She said I abandoned the house, I said. That if I cared about the family, I would have stayed. Watch the place. Dad looked like he was trying not to punch a wall. She left you alone, Matt. You're a child. She went on vacation and didn't even tell you. And now she's trying to make you the bad guy. He took a deep breath. Then another. Then looked at me dead on. That's it, he said. I've had enough. He sat back down and rubbed his hands together like he was working up the next move. I should have done this a long time ago, he said. But I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. I didn't want to make things harder for you. But she's made her choice. I looked at him. What do you mean? I'm filing for full custody, he said. I'm going to the lawyer tomorrow. I don't care what she says. I don't care what Richard spins. You're not going back there. I stared at him. You're serious? Dead serious, he said. I let it go when she started pulling away. I tried to stay civil when Richard showed up and started playing family man. But blaming you for a fire you didn't start? Turning the police on her own son? That's not parenting. That's betrayal. I didn't realize I'd been holding my breath until it let out in one long, shaky exhale. I'm going to make sure you're safe, he said. And not just physically, emotionally. No more of this walking on eggshells. No more feeling like a stranger in your own life. He stood, walked over, and put a hand on my shoulder. You're home now. And I'm not letting anyone take that from you. Dad wasn't bluffing. The morning after Mom's call, he had us sitting in a lawyer's office. Her name was Marla, mid-40s, sharp eyes, spoke like she hated wasting time. Dad laid it all out. The abandonment, the false accusations, the official fire report proving it was electrical, a short behind the dryer. Then he said it, plain and firm. I want full custody. He's not going back. Marla nodded. Matt, are you afraid to return to your mom's? Yes, I said. That was enough. She filed the emergency petition. The hearing was set for next week. At home, Dad was all business. Focused. Like something in him had flipped. He didn't talk about Mom or Richard anymore. Just made sure I ate, slept, and stayed calm. It was quiet. but not cold. It felt like protection. I didn't expect Mom to reach out, and she didn't. But Richard? He made his move. Friday night, I was on the couch with Dad, half watching TV, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. It wasn't you. I know that. He's lying. I froze. Who is this? Josh. My stepbrother. Richard's youngest. The quiet one. Always nodding along, always silent. What he sent next almost made me drop the phone. Screenshots of a folder, Matt behavioral profile, fake documents, reports saying I had violent outbursts, a made-up diagnosis, even school incidents that never happened. One more thing, a voice memo. Richard's voice. If this goes south, I'll just use the file. No one's going to believe a kid who's been unstable, especially one we left behind. Hell, his mom doesn't even question it. Dad listened to it once, then quietly stood and printed everything. We're giving this to Marla tomorrow, he said. This isn't just lies anymore. This is planned. Josh sent one last message. I don't feel safe here, but I couldn't let him do this to you. That was the moment everything locked in for me. The moment I stopped feeling confused. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a setup, and we finally had proof. Court is a weird kind of quiet. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that buzzes in your ears and makes every little sound feel too loud. The kind where your heartbeat sounds like a bass drum in your throat. We got to the courthouse early. Marla had us in a side room reviewing the evidence again, the fake documents, the screenshots Josh sent, and that voice memo. She was calm, deadly calm, like she'd already played this game and knew how to win it. This is strong, she said. But family court's unpredictable. Don't expect drama. Just answer what they ask. Don't interrupt. I nodded. My palms were sweating. Then they called us in. It wasn't like TV. No big wooden benches or people yelling objection. Just a tired-looking judge in glasses and a small room with a weird mix of floral carpet and government gray walls. Mom sat across from us. Not a tear in her eye. Richard wasn't there. Said he wasn't a legal guardian. Coward. Marla laid everything out. I'd been excluded from the trip, left alone without notice. Then I was blamed for a fire that turned out to be caused by faulty wiring. Then came the kicker, the fabricated file and the voice recording proving intent to frame me. The judge was quiet. Then she turned to my mom. And for the first time in a long time, I saw her squirm. Did you know about this file? The judge asked. Mom looked away. No, I didn't create it. That's not what I asked. I didn't ask for it to be made, Mom mumbled. But you didn't question it either, Marla said. You stood by while your husband told the police a child may have committed arson. You let that stain stick. And when the fire report cleared Matt, you still let your son carry the blame. Mom said nothing. The judge sighed and wrote something down. Then she looked at me. Matt, do you feel safe in your mother's home? No, I said. Not with Richard there. Not with her letting him lie. That landed. You could feel it in the room. The judge didn't take long. Until a full custody evaluation is complete, I'm granting temporary full custody to the father. Effective immediately. The mother is to have no unsupervised contact with the minor. Mr. Davis, she looked at my dad. You may proceed with a permanent petition. Mom didn't even flinch. Just nodded once, like she already knew this was coming. Outside, Dad exhaled hard for the first time all day. That's step 1, he said. I nodded. What's step 2? We make sure this never happens again. We didn't hear from her. No call. No text. No apology. After the court hearing, it was like Mom vanished from my life, by choice. The judge's order had been clear. No contact unless supervised. But that didn't mean she couldn't try. A letter. A voicemail. Something. But she didn't. Not even to ask if I was okay. Not even to lie. For the first few days, I kept expecting my phone to light up. I checked it more than I wanted to admit. A part of me, the smallest part, still wanted her to fight for me. Not in court. Just emotionally. To say something that proved I still mattered. But silence was all she gave me. And in that silence, something clicked. She didn't just fail to protect me. She didn't want to. Dad noticed me checking my phone constantly. One evening, he walked into the kitchen and said, "You're not going to hear from her." I didn't respond. She could have said something by now if she wanted to, he added. But she's not going to. She picked her side. I know, I said. And I did. But it still hurt. Because there's this moment, and I think everyone who's been betrayed by someone they love goes through it, where you finally realize they were never who you thought they were. She wasn't a flawed mom doing her best. She was a woman who wanted a new life, and I didn't fit in it. A week later, Dad and I had to stop by the house. We had to grab some documents and my things. We went during a time we knew they wouldn't be there. Dad had arranged it with Marla to avoid any accidental encounters. Walking up to that front door felt surreal. The porch light was still flickering. It had done that for years. The wind chimes Mom used to love were gone. Probably tossed or packed away. I stood there for a second too long. "You okay?" Dad asked. I nodded, but I wasn't. Not really. We stepped inside. It smelled like smoke and new paint. Someone trying to cover up damage without dealing with it. We didn't say much. We grabbed what we needed, and we left. But as I turned to walk out, I noticed something. On the mantel, where our old family photo used to sit, the one from when I was maybe 10, there was a new frame. Josh and Aaron. Just them. Like I'd never existed. That night, I cried. But then I just sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall, feeling this strange calm settle over me. Not peace. Not forgiveness. Just clarity. She erased me. So I'd erased the idea that she was ever going to be who I needed. After the court hearing, Dad didn't just bring me home. He gave me space, real space, like he was trying to prove with every small gesture that I belonged. The first thing he did was clear out his office. "It's yours now," he said. Just like that. He didn't ask if I wanted it. He just knew. Because he saw it, how badly I needed somewhere that was mine. He helped repaint the walls, bought a new desk, let me pick out bedding that didn't look like it belonged in a guest room. He even installed a lock on the door, just because I asked. No questions. Just trust. The first night I slept there, I didn't have nightmares. That hadn't happened in months. He didn't stop there. He transferred me to a school closer to his place. Said there was no point keeping me in the same district where everything had gone sideways. And he handled the paperwork. The meetings. All of it. "You just focus on the next step," he said. So I did. I applied to college. Not just anywhere, the place. The one I'd been thinking about since I was a kid. Out of state. A clean slate. Far enough away to feel new. Close enough that it didn't feel like running. I didn't tell Mom. Not because I forgot. Because she didn't ask. She didn't check in. Didn't send a message. Didn't call to see how I was doing or where I was going. It was like I'd never existed. She erased me completely. Then one afternoon, the envelope arrived. Big. Official looking. I opened it with shaky hands and read the first line 3 times before it sank in. "We are pleased to inform you." I was in. Dad saw me staring at the letter in the kitchen. He didn't ask what it said. Just walked over, read it over my shoulder, and put a hand on my back. "You earned that," he said. "I'm proud of you." And then, almost like it was nothing, he added, "I've been saving. For this. Since you were in kindergarten. We'll cover it." I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. I didn't cry until later. When I was alone. Sitting on my new bed, in my own room, in a house where someone finally wanted me. A few weeks later, Dad helped me pack. He rented the van, lifted the boxes, triple-checked the housing checklist. And when he dropped me off at the dorm, he didn't try to give some big emotional speech. He just said, "If you need anything, call. Doesn't matter what time." "Got it." "I got it," I said. Then he handed me a folded envelope. I found it later in my backpack. Just a handwritten note. "You always belonged somewhere. I'm just glad I could finally give you the space to get there." 2 years passed in silence. No messages. No apologies. No sign that I'd ever existed in her world. My mother had disappeared from my life completely, not by force, not by accident. By choice. And by then, I'd stopped expecting anything different. I saw Dad on holidays. He'd drive in for birthdays, help me haul my stuff back to his place during breaks, send "don't forget to eat real food" texts like clockwork during midterms. He showed up. Always. And when he visited that spring, just as I was submitting finals and thinking about my summer plans, he brought news I hadn't expected. We were in my dorm, sitting on opposite beds. He had that look like he was about to say something big. No preamble. "Richard's being investigated," he said. "Real estate fraud. Money laundering. A bunch of shell companies under fake names. It's bad." I blinked. "How do you know?" "My lawyer's handling some of it." She reached out when she saw the name. "Wanted me to know, since he's technically your ex-stepfather." I sat up, heartbeat rising. "Is he in jail?" "Not yet," Dad said. "But there's a warrant. They've been building the case for a while. Thing is, he tried something before disappearing." He leaned forward. "He pressured your mom to sign over the lakehouse. The one she inherited from her parents. Tried everything, sweet talk, guilt trips, even threats. I felt my jaw tighten. Why that house? He knew it was valuable. And it wasn't just money. He was trying to liquidate assets, fast. Probably to pay off someone or buy his way out. Or just run. Did she give it to him? I asked. No, Dad said. She stalled, dragged her feet, said she wasn't ready. That's when he turned. Got ugly with her. Started calling her weak. Said she was just like you. Ungrateful, difficult, impossible to work with. That hit harder than I expected. He told her he wasted years on her. Dad continued. That she was holding him back. And then, he vanished. Packed a bag. Left. Lawyers think he fled to dodge prosecution. Took cash, maybe fake documents, who knows. I sat there for a long time, not saying anything. Your mom didn't report it, he added. Probably didn't want to deal with the fallout. But she's not doing well. Their relationship was already on the rocks. This just collapsed everything. I didn't ask how she was coping. I didn't ask if she missed me. Because by then, I understood something very clearly. Richard didn't just try to control a family. He tried to erase anyone who wouldn't fall in line. And my mother? She let him. Until he turned on her too. She protected the house. I said finally. Yeah, Dad replied. She did. Just not her son. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. It happened on a Tuesday. I was back at school after summer break, unpacking the last of my things when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, not expecting anything important. It was a message from a number I hadn't seen in over 2 years. Matt, I know I have no right to reach out, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't feel the panic I used to feel when her name showed up. I didn't feel hope, either. I just felt still. She followed up a few minutes later. I didn't know how to fix things. After he left, I've been trying to understand everything that happened. I know I failed you. I know I chose him. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to hear it. She never said his name. Just he. As if that was all Richard ever was. A shadow that came and went, leaving wreckage behind. I didn't reply. Not right away. I told Dad later that week. We were eating pizza on the couch like old times. He didn't flinch. What did she say? That she's sorry, I said. Do you believe her? I thought about it. I believe she's sorry now, I said. But I don't think she's sorry for the right reasons. Dad nodded. You don't owe her anything. I know, I said. And I meant it. She kept trying. A week later, I got an email. A few paragraphs this time. She talked about Richard. How he changed. How he pressured her. How scared she'd been to go against him. How she thought she was protecting me by staying quiet, by keeping peace in the house. I didn't realize I was hurting you by trying to protect what I thought was stability, she wrote. I know that sounds like an excuse. Maybe it is. It was. She hadn't said a word when the police looked at me like I was a suspect. She didn't defend me when Richard painted me as a threat. She let me walk out of her life and stayed silent for 2 full years. And now that everything had collapsed, she remembered me. I didn't hate her. That would have been easier. What I felt was colder than hate. I had healed without her. Built a new life without her. Learned how to trust again. Not because she came back, but because she stayed gone long enough for me to learn how to survive without being chosen. I didn't need an apology to know who I was anymore. So I wrote her back. One message. Short. I hope you find peace. But I've already found mine. I turned off my phone, went outside, and walked for a while. The air was cool. The sky was clear. And for the first time in years, I felt completely free. My last semester flew by. It was the first time in years I didn't feel like I was constantly waiting for something to fall apart. I studied, worked a part-time job, made friends who knew me for me, not as someone's son or someone's problem. Dad came to my graduation. He stood in the back of the auditorium, clapping like the rest of the world had finally figured out what he knew all along. After the ceremony, he handed me an envelope. Inside was a key. To the condo, he said. It's not much, but it's yours if you want it. I'm moving in with Pam, so figured you could use a place to start from. I just stood there for a second, speechless. Because that's what he always gave me. Room to begin again. Not once, but every time I needed it. I moved in a week later. Small place, quiet street, nothing fancy. But it was mine. I unpacked books, bought cheap furniture off Facebook Marketplace, burned pasta 3 nights in a row. And every single night, I locked the door, turned off the lights, and let myself feel something I hadn't trusted in a long time. Safety. I never heard from Richard again. He vanished like a ghost with too many lies to outrun. I heard, through my dad's lawyer, that the case was still active. Every few months, someone said he'd been spotted overseas, but nothing ever stuck. He became what all men like him eventually become, a memory people stop chasing once the damage settles into silence. Mom sent a letter a year after graduation. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I knew what was inside. Explanations. Regrets. Maybe even love. But love that shows up after the wreckage isn't love. It's guilt wearing borrowed clothes. So here's the truth. I didn't get the apology I wanted. I didn't get the closure I thought I needed. But I got something better. I got out. I built a life without needing to prove I deserved one. And if you're reading this, if you're where I was, stuck in a house that doesn't feel like home, wondering if love should come with silence, blame, or the burden of being small, hear this. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. And you are not crazy for wanting more. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the first to disappear when we need protection the most. That doesn't make their silence your fault. It just means it's time to stop asking them to speak. I'm 23 now. I still flinch when someone raises their voice too fast. I still hesitate before trusting people who smile too easily. And some nights, I lie awake wondering if she ever really knew me at all. But most nights, I sleep. And that's not something I take for granted. Not anymore. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't have to wait for permission to protect your peace. Family isn't blood. It's who stays. It's who shows up. It's who looks at you in your worst moments and says, you're still worth something. Don't measure your worth by who left. Measure it by who fought for you, and by how hard you fought for yourself when no one else did. You'll survive. And then one day, slowly, quietly, you'll start to live. And when that day comes, you won't look back. You'll just breathe. And finally, you'll be free.